A lot of times, yeah, your mind tells you it's not possible, but you can do it. You can push yourself further than you thought you could. Having always played sports, I dedicated like 15 years of my life to playing volleyball, and I needed something else to do. So I had gone to the gym one day and decided I'm just gonna run and see if I had the endurance to be a runner, and had started running, and somebody on the treadmill next to me after I stopped was like, hey, you're a really good runner. So I talked to my then boyfriend, who's my husband now, and he was like, why don't you sign up for a 5K? So that's kind of how I got started. I did very local races. I think that was, my first one was like in 2002. And kind of went 5K to 10K to half marathon to marathon. And once I got to the marathon, as a runner, I was kind of like, what's next? And my husband suggested I try a triathlon. In 2015, I decided to bite the bullet and I was like, I'm gonna try a 70.3. And so I signed up for Galveston 70.3. And if anybody doesn't know, it's insanely windy down on the coast. And I did that race, and that's one of those races where I finished and I said, I'm never doing this again. Because it's one thing to bike when you're not a strong cyclist. It's another thing to bike when you're not a strong cyclist in headwinds that are like 20 miles an hour. But you know, I did it that year, finished in over 7 hours, went ahead and signed up the next year, did it, chipped off a little bit of time, still finished like 6 hours and something, but it was close to 7 hours. Okay, let's try it again in the next year. So I must have done Galveston 3 years in a row. So my very first Ironman, I finished in like 13 hours and 38 minutes, something. Enough that my watch beeped at me that it was going to die. I honestly went into it with very low expectations, having known my history in triathlon. My biggest goal was I wanted to finish and not be a one and done. Yeah, so Lane actually reached out to me and said, hey, I have this program that's great for triathletes. You know, would you be willing to like give it a try, like invest some time in it? And I was like, okay, yeah. But yeah, in the back of your head, you're a little skeptical, like, okay, is strength training really gonna like give me that much more? He's so passionate about it that I was like, okay, let me just give it a shot. Like, you don't know unless you try. So I was like, sure, I'm down, let's try it. The strength training that Lane had put together, I noticed was really supporting the muscles that I needed. These little aches and pains that I had from running, I wasn't having anymore. Second, I noticed like I started getting like more defined in my upper body, and that was really helping with the swim. We started in 2019, and I think the goal was like, let's test it on a race. And so he was like, you know, what race do you want to do that we can actually try it on? And I thought, well, okay, let's do Galveston, because I've done Galveston before, twice before in the past year. So let's try it and let's just see if like I get any better. He had already gone through some of my numbers in training and had looked at, you know, my swim times, my bike times, my run times. And he's like, I'm always like, he's like a beautiful mind. You'll see his mind working and like all the diagrams and the numbers calculating. And so he basically was like, hey, like I'm gonna give you this program, and I really want you to get off the bike at this time, and I want you to keep your run pace at this. He's like, I know your body can do it, because he had given me some tracker workouts to do, so he was able to go back through my track workouts and look at my speed and knew like what I could hold to maintain for like a race. There's like, flip back, what was my last time? 6:48. There's such a huge aspect to like the power of positive thinking, because when you're tired and out there, you're like, can I really do that? No, like you have to tell yourself you can. Like, I'm fit enough for this, I've been training for this. Our goal was, for me, knowing that the wind was really bad, was to get off the bike, you know, under a certain time. And I think I maybe came off of it maybe 1 or 2 minutes over what we wanted. But then in my head, I knew, well, that means I have to turn up the run a little bit, because I knew I wanted my finish time. I came in like 5:28, so got the goal. I definitely felt a lot stronger in this race than I previously ever have doing any triathlon, to be honest. And like I said, I wasn't hit with all these like minor injuries. I would usually go into every single race with like, oh, this is aching, or this is like twingy, you know, my knee on this part is a little bothersome, or like my calf over here. But since I'd started doing the strength training program, I was going into races like injury-free, which is like knock, you know, like, how is it that I'm training harder, longer, and I'm not injuring myself. And then it's like, well, it's gotta be strength. My goal is to do this the rest of my life. I wanna be that 75-year-old lady out on the course that everybody's like, oh my gosh, there she is. You wanna do it lifelong, and that's something me and my husband always talked about from my very first marathon was, this is something we like, we wanna enjoy, an active lifestyle our entire life. Get old with it.